Hey guys, what's up? All right. Double Deuce back. And today we're going to do an episode on who's the man behind the camera. Who's the bruiser guy? Like who's the old fart? So stay tuned and we'll come back. Okay, welcome back everybody. Today we're going to do an episode on who's me? Who's the guy behind the camera? Who's the guy who talks all the time? And who's the old fart? Well, I wasn't an old fart all my life. I was young like everybody else was. But as time went on, things happen. But anyway, so today I want to kind of give you a little background story, and we'll go from, from there. So first of all, I want to thank everybody out there who supported me and has done so much to help me out in my times, so I reached a milestone the other day for the second time. I've reached that YouTube goal, or whatever you want to call it. When I first started doing videos, you needed 500 subscribers, and you needed basically, I think it was, I don't know if it was 100 hours of view time to get monetized. I can't remember what exactly it was now. But I had reached that plateau. And at the same time, I was going through a lot of personal things in my life. And that's why I wanted to talk to you guys here today about. So for the second time, I've reached that goal again on YouTube where I've got my 1,000 subscribers and I have my 4,000 hours of view time thanks to you guys out there, and thanks to your interest, and I appreciate it greatly. I've turned this into more of an educational thing. I don't want it to be all about me, because like the stuff I got in my head, I want to share with a lot of you guys out there to build your own stuff. And sometimes you may see something as one thing, or another person might see it as something else. And that's what's cool about this hobby and being creative. So don't be afraid to jump outside the box a little bit and do your own thinking. Okay, so this video will probably be edited a lot. It all started back when I was a kid. Okay, they come out with, I think it was Cox had this Volkswagen Bug or something like that. Radio controlled airplanes and all that were pretty big back then, but they were really a high end scale kind of a hobby. When Cox came out with a .049 Volkswagen Bug that was tethered to a string, I think that was in the early 70s, maybe 74, 75 when I bought one of those. I was a youngin' then, and I was intrigued by it. It was cool because it had a lot of scale to it, and it was at that time nobody knew what scale was, and toys were toys, and grown men were grown men, and smoked cigarettes and drank alcohol, and they were tough guys, and me, I was more of a creative person at the time, and my father was in the auto body business, and he just got out of the military and he opened up his own body shop. So being creative was kind of right up my alley. I like fixing things and tearing things apart and changing things around. And custom cars back in the 70s was pretty big. If anybody remembers those, one of the other YouTubers out there, Ampro Engineering, he just did a really wicked cool van, a Dodge van version of what things used to be back then. And kudos to him for that one. I like that when I seen that van, because I did a lot of customizing on vans back then. They grabbed them old telephone vans and bring them in, and we'd put flares and mag wheels on them and do murals on the side, and that's when I started learning my airbrush techniques. But as time went on, that creativity, I still liked that little Cox Volkswagen 049, and of course they wear out, and they were cheap back then, and when I started searching around for things to, I guess, how do you take that airplane and make it a car, you know? And I remember back then trying to figure that out, but it was a taboo thing because you couldn't take an airplane radio and put it in a car and go out and run it somewhere because you were wiping out somebody's airplane, which was pretty dangerous, you know, as you went on. You think about it. That's why they have two different airways now, and you know, and airplane hobby and car hobby is, you know, airplane is very, very serious, and it's still fun. Don't get me wrong, but it's a lot slower. Think things through before you do it. Where these here, you just take them out and bash them. You know, there's no, the only recourse you're going to have is maybe a, you know, a wounded ankle or some property damage or something that's very minimal to these. And so, you know, it was kind of I let it go for a while. And growing up, I did my car thing, and I got heavily into muscle cars and all that stuff. And my first car was a '70 Chevelle. It was black, SS 454, and it was actually a Mustang was my first car. But the first real car I got on the road was a '70 Chevelle, and that's where I come up with that, my saying, you know, like when I seen Dazed and Confused and I seen Matthew McConaughey roll up in that black '70 Chevelle, that was me back then. You know, I was that guy, you know. I still went out and hung around, you know, after I got out of school. We just hang out and cruise around, and that stuff don't happen today. You got cameras everywhere, and you know, I street raced as a kid and made a lot of money. And but cars are always in my blood, and you know, like I guess tinkering with stuff was nonstop. And so I got married after a while and had a kid, and I was in, you know, you couldn't do much back then. You didn't have a lot of money, you know. And I worked a full-time job, and, you know, when you're feeding a kid, you don't have money. So I did modeling, you know, and I got into, like, the 8th scale monogram models and stuff. And, you know, I would do that to kind of set home. And then one day I seen a Radio Shack Porsche, and so I bought it. I think it was a whole $38 back then, and man, it broke me. I remember going to the bar, buying a beer for 50 cents and stealing a roll of toilet paper out because we needed toilet paper that week. I bought that car. I'll never forget it. And so I tore that Porsche apart. Excuse me. And I took a monogram. I think it was an '82 Camaro at the time. An 8 scale, and I put all the electronics inside that Camaro, and I come up with my first own hand-built RC car, you know, and I think the model back at that time was about $12. So, you know, for around $50, I had my first RC car that I had built, and I think that was around 1982. It was actually when that model first came out, and so. Yeah, I moved up here in the north and got a, you know, serious job and started playing house and all that. And one day we had a hobby store right next to the body shop where I worked, and I'll never forget. I was pulling into work one morning and I kind of looked over and I seen the Bruiser, and it stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, wow, this thing, I've heard about these things, you know, and I'd never seen one. And I went, and that's how my love for the Bruiser came about. And so I, you know, being with a hobby shop right next door, I think I was over there, you know, 10 times a week. And I put the Bruiser in layaway because at that time, I think it was almost $600. That's without a radio. I think it was $560 or $590. I can't even remember what it was now, but it was close to $600. I put it in layaway and paid it off, and that's that truck right there, you know, the black one here, and that was my first Bruiser. And so as time went on, I can't leave well enough alone, and you know, I messed around with this and that, and you know, I bought another one, and then, you know, then my collection started, and any used Bruisers I found at yard sales and stuff I bought. because eBay wasn't around back then. And so as time went on, I just kept messing with the bruisers, and it just, there was that time where nobody cared about them and all that stuff, and they were, when eBay come out, they were all over eBay. So I started buying pieces and just putting them in boxes, and because at the same time, as your life goes on, you go through rolling changes, which are unexpected, and nobody plans for any changes in their lives and all that stuff. And so, I was a renter. I rented houses, and I kept getting tired of the rug getting pulled off and onto me, and people selling their houses, or deciding they're going to renovate it, and you had to move out. And so all this stuff that I had bought, I just kept in boxes all through the years, and then I got heavily, more into cars and all that, which is, it gets an expensive setup there. But I come up with a lot of cars. I was dragging muscle cars out of the bone lots in the back and fixing them up all my life. Even as a kid, I would go to the very back lot of all the Chevrolet dealerships and buy any super sport, anything with a 4-speed, I basically bought. And I was a gearhead all my life, and so it kind of directly leads right to these RC cars. And so, long story short, life was, well, my plan to be, a good father, and and a good husband, and you got the house on #1 Happy Street, and everything's cool, and the wife ran off with a truck driver one day, and it was at the time it sucked and all that stuff, but at the same time it was a blessing in disguise, because I didn't have the honey-do list to do no more, and I had more time to focus on different things. And so me and my kid, actually my oldest son at the time, he was heavily into cars, big time. My youngest one was into music, and because I had 2 boys, and so life started off as we were the 3 amigos, I guess, and because I really wasn't looking to jump into another relationship at the time, and I wanted to spend more time on things that I let go in my life, like my RC car hobby, So I messed with that, and I did. I bought a lot of muscle cars and sold them, and my youngest son started a band, and so he had a good metal band going on. So I was dad, party dad, and part-time muscle car salesman with my oldest son, and then I was the roadie for the band. And we would travel around and all different shows and stuff in Worcester at the Palladium and all this stuff, and we'd take equipment around. And the room I'm in right now was the band mixing room. This is the room where we had all the mixing stuff over here, and then the second room over there we had the drum room, and so he did all his mixing and stuff down here and all that stuff. And at the same time, all my stuff set out in the basement in boxes, and so I went through this, everything was cool. We're busy having, we lived like the rock star party life, basically, and we had a lot of fun, and we drove nice cars, and everything was cool. And then one day, my oldest son, I got a phone call that he had a traumatic brain injury. So, that's when this stuff doesn't matter to you. It's like you're focused on your, what's really important at the time, and that was saving his life. And he came through it, okay, and it was a scary, 3 months, I'll put it that way. And it, things start building up inside you that you don't understand, okay? You ask a lot of questions, why, like how this happened. There was no answers for it. The cops investigated it, and they didn't come up with nothing. So, anyways, so my life took a sharp left, okay, and focusing on RC cars was not even in my head. It just was not there. I couldn't even, I couldn't get creative. I could not, do anything. But it was funny, the week before his traumatic brain injury, we did a TV show, and it was with Beyond Productions and a guy who had a restoration shop in Philadelphia. And I think it was called the Cars Are or something series or something, man-made series on Beyond Production. And anyways, we had an old busted out 69 Z28 that I had forever, and it was a color delete car. And a color delete car means that it came from the factory and basic, with no color code on it, and you painted it whatever you wanted to. And so we put the car on eBay. Long story short, we sold the car, and we did a TV show. And so we figured that I that was my first time to be out in the public behind a camera. I'll put it that way. And I was a younger man, and I didn't trust it. Like I didn't trust a lot of things back then. Because this whole world's made on cashing in on people. And so when I do these here, I'm not doing it to cash in. I'm doing it to show you guys what can be done, and I show you how I do it, where I get it, and all that stuff. And so, anyways, getting back to the left turn in life. At the same time, I'm in the hospital. We're trying to get my son back to somewhat of a normal lifestyle. And we had to kind of start over again. And he was there. He was 99% there, but he wasn't. And I focused a lot on that and nothing on this. So they opened up a hookah lounge and all that stuff, and everything was great and all that and everything else. And but he started having seizures, and when he didn't tell me about them at first, because we shared we shared everything. We had no secrets between us, and both my kids. It's like something went on in their life and it was a shit show. We all knew about it. You know what I mean? And we all dealt with it. We stood there and took it like a man, or we kind of laughed off some things. And we had some crazy times, and it was all good until I guess alcoholism stepped into my oldest son's life. And we all partied and drank all through the years and had a good time, but after his brain injury, one thing that you'll find out about somebody who has a traumatic brain injury, death does not scare them, because he basically died once, so he was not afraid of anything. It's like people who walk away from an airplane crash. When they walk away, they're invincible. They live their life as an invincible person, and that that puts you out there. You know what I mean? And so I was trying to get him back to the RC car hobby, to kind of control this invincibility. And anyways, I got a clodbuster up here. That's his, and we used to call it the Joss Buster. It's something he built and all that stuff. And he was more into modeling and not really bashing the cars or running them. He had a good time. He would come up with, he actually took one time and took small steel wire and made brake lines and all that stuff on the clodbuster. It was and fuel lines, and he bought a a model engine and put in there and made a tilt nose on it, and it looked like a real monster truck, and it was wicked cool. But we got a phone call one day, and they found him dead at the lounge, and that kind of messed me up. It's like, because you're all you want in life is to be a good father and a good husband, and and have all the good things in life, and all of a sudden I don't know, I just they just kept feeding me, life just kept feeding me spoonfuls of shit, and so I went downhill fast because I didn't know how to deal with this at all. My emotions were non-existent. Um, had I didn't know how to deal with things, and this is a club that no parent needs to be in. I guarantee you, and because everybody acts differently when it comes to losing somebody, and being that my son, he was basically my business partner. I mean, we did everything together. We partied together. We go out at night. We spent more time at the strip clubs than anything because we both went through divorces basically at the same time, and but we held an upper an upper edge to our lifestyle. We weren't total scumbag partiers. We tried to be debonair about everything, and and always put on a nice image for people, and and do our thing. But yeah, the eBay thing went bad because I was getting robbed left and right from people and all that stuff, and and so that went bad actually before my son passed away, and all these events were happening kind of all at once. And then my son passed away, and then it was just life stopped for me. Somebody put my life in a brown paper bag and shook it up and emptied it out over a bridge. Is basically what they did, and it took me a while to figure out where I was in this world. And one day, my youngest son said to me, he goes, I drank pretty heavy, and he come over, and I mean, he still stayed here for a while. He moved out and then moved back home, and he's my youngest. He's going through his life stage there, different girlfriends and whatever. And anyways, I don't know, he just seen something in me. He goes, "Hey, Dad, why don't you grab that old 62 Impala you made, that big one, and finish it, And so I thought about it, but I couldn't get the ideas from here to here, and it took some time for me to find myself. And at the same time, I was partying really hard, and I was going out, and just, the sky was the limit, and I didn't know how to express my, my sorrows or my angers, and then I realized I was diagnosed with PTSD, and it was funny because I never even connected the two together of the traumatic events that happen in your life that you deal with on a daily basis build up inside you, and it's like a cancer that you can't fix. And it all come to a head, I guess. One night I was out partying, and somebody had blow up my spot when I was hitting on a couple of women that were not so beautiful, if you want to know what I mean. The guy was trying to save me, and I grabbed the guy and threw him over the bar and made a big scene and left and thought, who's this guy to blow up my spot? And I thought about that, and it was like, what? There's more people out there trying to save you than you think, and you don't see it. And so I crawled into the bottle a little deeper, and I went nowhere. I was secluded. I stayed home, and I lived like a hermit. I went to work, and I came home. As far as even going grocery shopping, I didn't even want to do that. I was looking for ways to find a way to have that stuff delivered to my house because I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to go out and mow the grass. I didn't want to go out and see the neighbors. I didn't want to do nothing, And anyways, I was probably, I think, I was doing a bottle of tequila a night after work. Get up, go to work. And then it led to a six-pack of tall buds, so wash down the bottle of tequila, and I did that for about 2 years. And I don't know how I did it, to be honest with you. I look back now, and it's just like, I don't know how I functioned. I was on a suicide mission, is what I was on, and at the same time, I was, I wanted to do videos. I wanted to use my creativity because I wanted to come out inside me, but all these other things were blocking it from happening. And I got up one day. I came home bombed one night, and I whipped that Impala out, and I worked on it on and off for 3 months during this whole drunken stupor. And did it come out like I wanted it? No, it didn't. But it was unique. It was different. And I looked at that, and I said to myself, you do have something inside you that, it's a positive thing, because I've seen everything negative in my life, and people were negative, and my relationships were all exploding in my face with my girlfriends and friends, and it just wasn't working for me. And I sat there one day. I got up one morning, and I looked in the mirror, and I didn't like who I was, and I I had a long talk with that guy in the mirror, and until if you have any issues in your life or something, and until you have that talk with yourself, that's when it's time to change things. So I thought about it, and I think I'll take my YouTube thing more serious. I think I will try to become a better person. I think I'll try to share my knowledge with people out there who wanted to, who are doing their thing every day and having fun with it. And so I just figured it out one day. It was like, what do I like in my life? What do I want to do? And I thought about it. I was like, geez, I got all this Bruiser stuff I bought. It's like that was the truck that got me through all them slow times, rough times. And when you go out and you steal a roll of toilet paper for your first RC car, you know what I mean? You're a die-hard hobbyist. I'll put it that way. And so I realized all this time that this Bruiser was in a box waiting for me. It just sits there and waited, and it got me. This truck has got me through more ups and downs in my life by breaking away from the madness and coming back to disappearing into the hobby. And so basically, I addressed my alcoholism. I quit drinking, and I addressed my PTSD. And I got on some meds for that for a while, but I stopped taking them because it got to the point where they can only do so much for you. You have to accept the problem yourself. And I know it's impossible, and everybody says, oh, yeah, right. But until you figure out a little positive in your life, and I took it from there, and I came out of this black hole. And so now you see all these builds and stuff that I do. I get a lot of flack from people who don't like my videos. I get a lot of flack from people who don't like my builds. You know what, though? It's like, the way I see it is, if one of my builds touches one person out there and opens up that box of creativity, then it's all worth it to me. And there's a big things going on in the hobby right now with crawlers are huge, and scale is really huge, and it seems like they got the bashing over here, we got the nitro guys over here, and we got the crawlers here, we got the scale guys here, and but all around they're all thinking in the same manner. And so I busted on Tamiya, I guess you should say, or I call it Tamiya, but I got called out for that, and because I am not perfect. And so anyways, I called them out on building a scale truck. They had it all this time, and they didn't, they still ignore things. And to be honest with you, I hope they don't do one. You know why? Because the HDP 407 has totally changed the world when it comes to this truck. because for one, they're not $800 for just a kit. You can grab one for $200-300 that's ready to run. So it's a low investment basher. It's a low investment crawler. It's a low investment high end scale model if you want it to be. And so it basically, the way I see it, if Tamiya, the direction they're going in right now, all they do is re-release different plastic kits, and now they're making them into these comical versions of them, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, but what they fail to realize is, they're not selling these kits to, kids. Little kids ain't buying these kits, and a guy that's 35, 40 years old, or even my age, 58. I don't want a comical, kit from a re-release, you know what I mean? Especially in like bright green or pink or some crazy color. That's not a sales edge. A sales edge is to look back and say, who's buying my stuff? What are the age groups? And how do I cater to that age group? Because when it's not, the attitude's not, I built this, screw you, you're going to buy it from me because I tell you to, okay? No, the age group matters, So if you're a smart marketing company, which I thought, Tamiya was, you would look into your customer base and you would see that, okay, well, these guys are into this, they want this, let's give it to them. And that's how you sell things, guys. I mean, not for nothing, but if they come up with a version that suited me of something that I liked, I mean, the money couldn't come out of my pocket fast enough. And so, well, like I say, but that's the way the world works. You can't, you can't make water run uphill, and if they don't want to do that, they're not going to do it. So the HCP 407, to me, gives everybody an opportunity to build the version of something that they want. And with all of the aftermarket parts out there, and just a lot of the scale crawler stuff, and you can take stuff from one kit and put it on another, which I do all the time. And you know why? Because the world's endless. You know what I mean? Like, the sky's the limit. Like, don't like I say, the worst idea in the world, okay, is the one that was never brought to the table, because nobody knows what it would do, and that's how the human race functions. Okay, I don't care, how old you are, where you're from, okay, but it's all about the creativity inside you, and so, like I say, that's why I like this truck so much, and this is the guy behind Radio Out of Control. It's if I can do something for you, that makes me feel better, and if I give you an idea or a direction to go with, or some advice for something that I learned in the past, and you may stumble across it or something on YouTube, that's cool, but getting back to the YouTube thing, like when I was down in my black hole there after my son passed away, YouTube demonetized me. And to add insult to injury, the reason they monetized me is because I didn't put a video up, okay, I guess in like 6 months or something, and some advice to YouTube, okay, you did not want me to put a video up. You did not, because for one, it would have not been good, all right, and it would go in the wrong direction. I'll put it that way. It's not if something's not really that positive, I'm not going to go out and put it on YouTube. I mean, I was always brought up to say, when you're in public, you act right. You know what I mean? And if not, I got slapped upside the head, from the old man. And so you learn, to be gracious. You learn, to be courteous. And I'm not going to put something out there that's going to appall somebody. You know what I mean? And believe you me, if I was to do a video during that time, it would have been appalling. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have been pretty. But like I say, things happen for a reason. Over time, I became, I guess I found myself more and more and more, which was a positive thing for me and a positive thing for you, because now when I build something, I don't build it just because it's in my head and I want to see it done. I build it because it's like, put it out there and let somebody else see it. Because sometimes people just need that little push to build their own thing. And, I'm not afraid to alter something and screw it up and break it and all that stuff, because that's how we learn, And, but like I say, it's, this is the man behind the channel. And either you like me or you love me. It doesn't matter. But if I can do, like I say, a positive thing for the hobby, that's important to me. And I hope you guys feel the same way. And, so don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm a lot better now. And, but like I say, if you go through something in life, and you end up in that black hole, just stay positive. Don't go the other direction. It's not a pretty place to be, and it's very dark and scary there, and nothing good comes from it. Nothing good at all. So, anyways, hope I didn't bore you guys. Like I say, if you want to like, share, subscribe if you want. To tell my story out there or something. Because I do want to do an upcoming video on how the RC car hobby helped my post-traumatic stress disorder. And it sounds weird and all that stuff, but if this worked for me, we have a lot of veterans that have this disorder, okay? And I'm not even a veteran. I was just an Army brat. I was the son of a military man, and he had it. And when somebody in your family has post-traumatic stress disorder and they're a loose cannon and you have to deal with it on a daily basis, sometimes when you go out on your own life and you do your own thing and you're dealing with stuff, and then one day you feel this thing inside you that can't come out, you're going to find out that you have it too. And there's a lot of military families, kids and stuff from these, the poor veterans that come back with all these disorders, and they don't even know, but they're passing the disease off to them too, and it makes their life a living hell, and I'll put it this way: when I got married, me and my father got into a little scuffle because he drank a whole fifth of whiskey and decided to have it out with his stepdad right at my wedding, and so I graciously tried to pull him off to the side, and he ended up throwing me off a 35-foot, whip through the air. I mean, he was like grabbed by a gorilla, and you got to get up, dust yourself off, and deal with it. And my first thought was to go back and lay into him, and I seen him staring at me, and I looked in his eyes, and I knew that wasn't him. That wasn't my father. It was something else. And then as I got older, and after my son passed away and all that stuff, I realized who that person was that was in his eyes, and it's a whole other character that you become without even knowing. It just takes your body over. And so, like I say, I'm not going to go crazy with this, but And I want to keep this on a positive note, but I also want you guys to know that when things go shit in your life, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So, anyway, stay building, and like the website for the Bruiser says, don't be a loser, build a bruiser. And I come up with a new one. If you want a piece of heaven, buy an HGP 407. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Later. Adios.